All right, everybody, what is going on? Good morning, happy Tuesday, and we've reached another little milestone in the Seattle Seahawks offseason. Today is an important day, although I'm not going to pretend that this is something that everybody's going to be invested in, but if you are a follower of the Seattle Seahawks offseason, today matters. Now, I got this tweet up on screen here talking about the signing of Bobby Hart, which I already made a video about yesterday. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the second part of this sentence from this Field Goals tweet, mandatory minicamp. So the Seattle Seahawks have mandatory minicamp starting today, and it runs through the 11th. So it's a 3-day mandatory minicamp, and we'll have the opportunity to learn some stuff from it. This video is sponsored by PrizePicks. So, first of all, mandatory minicamp, one of the interesting things about it is that if a player isn't present for it, it implies there's a problem. That's what the word mandatory is for. So, first of all, you always like to see which of your players are there and which players are not there. The modern NFL heavily punishes players that don't show up to mandatory practices in the offseason. And the NFL has also kind of made it so the team doesn't really have the ability to forgive the punishment. In the old days, you would have these players rack up these big fines in the offseason because they didn't show up for the offseason work. And then when they showed up, the team would just pretend that the absences didn't happen. Can't really do that now. So it's always good to know who's going to show up. But in the case of the Seahawks, there's not really anybody that we're worried about because everybody has shown up at some point during the offseason already, either the OTAs or the previous workouts. So there's nobody that hasn't shown up yet. We don't have a Jacoby Brissett or a Josh Sweat who might be trying to work their way out of their team. We don't have a player that seems unhappy. So therefore, there's not a lot of drama there for us, although it's not impossible to imagine that somebody who wants a new contract might take this opportunity to announce themselves. It would just be kind of weird if it happened now. So we don't have to worry about that. But we can still learn a lot from this mini camp. And I went back last year and looked at the videos I made during our mini camp last year. And there are things that happen during this time of year that will tell you, or at least clue you in, to what may happen later on. Now, sometimes it's a false positive, but we work with what we have. So, just as an example, last year, I went back and looked at the videos. Some of the things that were reported at minicamp that I talked about were Christian Haynes getting reps at center. We were trying to move him around on the offensive line. And the big one that came out of minicamp last year was Jalen Milroe looking a lot better. Now, that was great, but for those of you who watched football last year, you know that number one, Christian Haynes never actually played center for us and was never listed or considered to be a center. And also, Jalen Milroe did not play for us. And when he did play for us, he did not help us. So the things we saw in that minicamp did not manifest into anything valuable for that season, but that doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. So there are things to look for in these minicamps, and I'm going to be doing that over the next 3 days. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the PrizePicks app, where it always feels good to be right. PrizePicks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. PrizePicks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. PrizePicks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on PrizePicks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about team picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So, with that in mind, what are some things to keep an eye on over the next 3 days here? Because remember, it starts today. So, by the time you watch this video, things may already be happening at the VMAC. But I think that when you look at this roster, obviously you want to see what's going on with some of the players that are still nursing injuries. Guys like AJ Barner, guys like, I believe, Eric Saubert. Maybe we'll see something from Charbonnet, although I doubt it. Maybe Kenny McIntosh. Although, again, it seems like both those guys are a little ways away. Josh Jones, and a slew of other guys that have missed some or all of the offseason work on the field because of injuries. It'll be good to see if any of those guys get back, but that's just kind of the obvious stuff. So let's talk about some more specific things. What are some things we could see over the next 3 days that actually tell us something about this team next year or this year? I imagine there's going to be a lot of attention on Milroe because he should be showing some improvement by now. He should be showing something that indicates he can be an NFL quarterback. I don't think he'll be there yet. I don't think we should expect him to be there yet, but I do think that we should see something better than we saw last year. And remember, as I said earlier in this video, Milroe looked good in minicamp last year. It just didn't translate to preseason or the regular season. So we need to see some steps in the right direction there. I don't think that'll matter that much for this roster. I don't think Drew Lock's going to go anywhere no matter what. But it would be interesting if Milroe improves to the point where we feel like he could be our backup quarterback. We do save a little bit of money on Drew Lock if he leaves, and maybe he has a tiny bit of trade value to a team that wants a good backup. So worth watching. I want to see what's going on with the backup, or not backup, but the running back depth chart. I want to get a feel for how far along Price is. Is he ready to be the lead back? I want to get a feel for what maybe Emmanuel Wilson's role is, because it's a little bit undefined right now to me. So I think the running back room is going to be really important. Is Helani going to be the third down back for now? And if so, where does that leave somebody like a Charbonnet when he gets back? Wide receiver, would be nice to see continued development on Shaheed. Because apparently he looked really good in the OTAs, and him advancing as a receiver is a very important part of what makes this team potentially go in the 2026 season beyond what they were last year. Horton, we'll see if his health is coming along. That's another good one. I think if Horton is good by this point, then we are almost definitely going to have him ready to go for the regular season. We also need to see some things come together on this offensive line with the backups. Where is Stevens? Where is Bo Stevens? Where is Christian Haynes? Where do we see Bryce Cabledew? If Cabledew is our backup left guard, does that mean Stevens bumps over to right guard? And if so, does Christian Haynes just kind of get cut in the roster cut down? Do we trade Oluwatimi and then move somebody to center? Now we've got Bobby Hart. I don't have him listed here, but what about him versus somebody like an Amari Kite? I did hear a little bit of buzz that Amari Kite did not look good in the OTAs. So it's possible that this Bobby Hart signing is a direct reply to that, because we don't really have a lot of tackle depth around here. We have Josh Jones and Amari Kite, and that's it. So offensively, those would be kind of the main things that I'm looking at. I want to see this backup offensive line situation clear up. And defensively, for the most part, I feel like things have already kind of slid into place. Maybe Bud Clark versus Ty Okada would be the main thing to keep an eye on here. Clark versus Okada is kind of one of the big offseason battles here. How far along is Julian Neal? Is he somebody who's ready to play a little bit this year, or is he a red shirt? Remember, he did not play a lot in college, so he might be a little bit of a red shirt this year. And I think that's probably most of it, right? Like, there's no drama about the inside linebackers. I don't think there's drama about the edge rushers. Maybe Nwosu looks really, really washed up or cooked to the point where they feel like they have to do something else, I guess, but that seems unlikely. Riley Mills could be fun, but I think we already have a pretty good feel that Riley Mills is going to be a a crucial part of this team for 2020 for 2026. Maybe not crucial, but a relevant part. I don't know if him showing up in camp and looking really good would like change anything. And I think that's mainly it. I think those are the things that are worth watching. Um, contracts, maybe. Maybe we get some extensions done. We still have Big Cat on the last year of his deal. Witherspoon wants to get extended. It seems more likely that happens in July, but I guess it's not impossible it happens over the next few days while everyone's in the building. Okay. So I think that's really about it. Those are the things to keep an eye on. Milrow, running back room, Shaheed, backup offensive line in general, maybe a little bit of the Bradford versus Stevens thing, although I still feel like it's going to be Bradford ultimately. I feel like there's not a lot of drama there, but Stevens could end up exceeding expectations by a pretty wide margin, and then you have at least a discussion. I don't think this team will be in a hurry to ruin their continuity on the offensive line, but maybe Stevens forces the issue. And Neal and Bud Clark versus Okada. Okay. I think that's really all we got. So let me know what you guys think, if anything. I know that it's just a mandatory minicamp, but I'll be making videos over the next few days talking about whatever happens out there, good stuff, bad stuff, indifferent stuff, and just passing along whatever it is I hear. But this is the part of the year where you can start to learn stuff about your team. May not carry over to the regular season. Like I said, last year, Milrow had a good minicamp, but didn't amount to anything in the regular season. But doesn't mean it doesn't matter. It does matter that these guys look good when they have opportunities, even if it doesn't immediately translate to something. All right, go Hawks. See you guys later. Maybe another video later. We'll see.